Despite what their moms told them, they just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot. And really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Now, those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Sunday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe for the Believe Entertainment Network at Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there, join the militia. We're back after a week off because Syracuse kind of had a week off for basketball. So we're back to talk about, I guess, really yesterday's game. They go out, they take care of business against NC State on Wednesday. Probably their best game, full game of the season. Maybe even their first. I don't know. But anyway, took care of business. Turning the corner, man. Flipping the leaf. Starting anew.
Yeah. Let's finish the season strong.
Finish the season
some spots in the ACC,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Move up a little bit.
Yeah. It did secure, however. Well, really, I guess Boston College losing yesterday helped quite a bit. And, of course, Miami, the only teams they can beat are Syracuse and whoever the hell they beat. Maybe NC State. I don't know. Where's their other win? Where'd their other win come from? I don't know.
He was a random okay team.
It was. Anyways, they did secure their spot, and it was Notre Dame. They did secure their spot in the ACC tournament, as far as I'm concerned. They win the tiebreaker. It's between NC State. If they were to lose out and NC State was to win, they'd be fine. So,
well, I think,
or Boston College, either one.
I think Boston College actually losing to California last night actually locked us in.
Okay. Well, yeah, it did. It did because of the tiebreaker.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. That's good, right? So, you're saying there's a chance. Even Joe's cringing now. But there is a chance. Like I said, they go out, they play a terrific game against NC State. It's funny because we talk about consistency and how consistently inconsistent they are. But they do play a good game against NC State at home, which helped. And then Virginia Tech, they had it. Again, they had it. Just like they did against Miami, just like they did against Pitt. They had it. And they lost. And, you can blame a lot of that on the turnovers. And anyway, I think there was only... How many turnovers were in the first half? It wasn't many. They really blew it. In overtime, too, there was like 5 turnovers in like 5 minutes. So that was, to that point through the whole game, they had 9. So, I don't know, just ugly. But before we talk about that, we'll get your thoughts as well. I did see this week that Boeheim's Army isn't going to sit on the sidelines this year. They're going to put a team together. First person on the team as of right now that I know of is Elijah Hughes. And we all remember Elijah Hughes. He's another player that put the team on his back on a consistent basis, right? So it is rumored, it is said that basically that Jim Boeheim may coach this team, whether or not Buddy or Jimmy play, but he's got to have some hip surgery apparently. So we'll have to see about that. But they are putting a team together. The same players as before. Adam Weitzman is involved, and the Belby brothers are involved. So some summer basketball, I guess, something to kind of look forward to. They did mention that, the past few years, stepping away outside of the family to find some players, and they're going to try to find a more Syracuse-based team this year. So we'll see what happens. But it would be interesting to see if you get Elijah Hughes and both the Boeheim brothers back who else you can grab there, and I think
I'd like to see him grab a Gerard.
yeah. I mean, isn't Elijah Hughes plays in the G League, correct? I mean, he still plays basketball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would be. I mean, it is at least something interesting. I don't know. So, all right, back to Syracuse, Joe. Did you listen to Coach's presser?
That wasn't a replay.
Man, I feel bad for him in there now. It was funny at first, kind of making fun of it, but now I feel bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my heart goes out to the guy to have to. I mean, we talk about this a lot when we come here to talk about basketball versus football. Like, you can only repeat yourself so many times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's only so much you can say. Yeah, every game's different, but it's the same problems. So to sit there and have a 7-minute press conference about it is, I mean, well, duh. We're gonna get the same crap.
At least not 15.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
Boeheim's used to be longer, right?
But Boeheim's were entertaining, though.
Well, that's just the difference now, and maybe it's who knows if it's coach being tactful, him not trying to lose his team. Maybe the fact that just this newer, younger generation can't take constructive criticism as well. But Jim Boeheim would be the one. He'd be out there calling out the guys, right, for the things that they should be doing, and they aren't, right. And Adrian Autry, he just doesn't do that. That's just not his way of handling that situation, and it makes for a very, very bland coach speak type of press conference. So I think that's why they only go 7 minutes, because all the reporters, they pretty much know what they're going to get from him. As in with Jim Boeheim, you never knew. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the contrast between the last two games, and I understand they were at Virginia Tech and all that, but there's not a ton of excitement around that team either, as far as their fan base goes. No. They came into the game averaging under 70 points a game, and I know there's overtime, but what was the regulation? End of regulation, 87-87, something like that. Is that right?
No, I think it was 82.
82. Okay. All right. So they come into the game averaging under 70 points a game. Syracuse relinquishes a 13-point lead, like a 10-0 run in between there. Very lucky, very, very lucky to have that 1-3 by Carlos go in at the end of regulation. I mean, no way I saw that coming. So,
no.
I mean, just you failed to close out the game. You get into overtime. That's when you're supposed to, get your stuff back together and do what you need to do, and they just didn't. So the turnovers killed them at the beginning of that, and then they just, Virginia Tech shot 60% from the floor and 42% from three, and there was a point there where J.J. Starling had a chance to knock down 3 foul shots and missed every single one of them towards the end of the game, and that hurt, and I'm not putting it on him alone, but, you're at the free throw line, and you got a guy who is, one of our better free throw shooters, and he's, he misses all 3. So, anyways,
yeah,
he's a 71%. He's a 71% on the year, which isn't great, but he is one of our better ones. So.
Well, and we didn't even shoot that bad from the line. 23-29 yesterday.
No, we've gotten better there. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously it's the defense. There's some players that played pretty good defense. I thought Carlos did pretty good at keeping Rex Steiner out of it. But then once they made that change and had Jaden Shute come in and then Hammond come in, I don't know if he was just a little bit quicker, but those guys they just shot pretty much. 13 of 15 off the bench for a combined 41 points.
Yeah,
and it's
47 points off the bench.
Well, I know, but just between those two guys.
Yeah, those two, yeah.
Yeah, so, but yeah, and if you want to bring in, their backup center, Patrick Wessler, that's another 3 for 4. So now you're talking about a 16 out of 19 from the guys off the bench for, like you said, 47 points. And, we got a little bit off the bench too, but I think to me it was just the defense and then obviously the 3-pointers. Jaquan Carlos, he's been playing better of late, played 44 minutes, but, him 1 of 6 from the 3-point line. The only one he hit was that buzzer beater. JJ Starling 0 of 3. That kind of hurt us. I thought Cuff shot pretty well from there. Chris Bell only got 1 shot from there. But overall, to me, it's just that defense and figuring out how to stop that. And it's just too easy for guys to, off of the pick and rolls to just get into around the free throw area and just take that little jump shot. And you saw Jaden Young and Ben Hammond really take advantage of that yesterday. And then we ran our offense through, our guys down low. Jair Davis played really well. I thought Eddie Lampkin, 13th double-double of the season, thought he played well. They had a combined 37 points, but then when they wanted to kick it out to somebody, obviously other than Kyle Cuff, no one else really hit anything other than, Mastorovich and Bell hitting 1 each. But
they both hit theirs immediately after coming off the bench too.
Right.
And
so it's tough when you have JJ only getting, shooting 5 of 14. It's hard to be mad at JJ, when you said missing those 3, free throws and everything. But, I've seen a trend of us trying to work our offense through Lampkin and Jair Davis down low, playing bully ball, which I thought worked. We fouled out a couple guys in their teams, get their guys in foul trouble. But what was lacking was, the movement of our guards outside of that. Just kind of getting the ball to Jair or Eddie and then watching them, kind of do what they were going to do and not having those other guys move around to get easier baskets. So, and then obviously giving up 19 points in overtime you just can't do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of points.
So, and it's again, like you said, inconsistency. We just can't put together a solid like you watch the NC State game. We know NC State probably not going to make the NCAA or the ACC tournament most likely, but we spoke about them. That game was maybe their overall best game throughout, as far as consistency and keeping a lead in dominating a game all the way through. And then for 3/4 of this game, it kind of looked like the same. Virginia Tech only had the lead when it was 4-2 in the first half. And then at some point we were up 13 in the second half. So, but from the 10-minute mark on, it was just like we couldn't put the ball in the basket and we couldn't stop them from putting the ball in the basket. And it was very, very hard to watch.
Yeah, it was hard to watch, which is why I just had it on. Outside doing some things, listening to it. I had it on my phone and I was listening to it mostly. But also, the CW needs a brush up. I know they're trying to break into the sports world at a fast pace, but they got to brush up a little bit. It wasn't awful. He had a Syracuse alum on there, but I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, it's for me, honestly, we'll see what happens with this. We got 2 more games left, and we'd be lucky to go 1-1 in those last 2 games. At this point, right now, it's just practice because there's nothing else to play for as far as advancing yourself, right? I guess it could be seeded different, but I think when I saw it yesterday, the last time I saw it, we were going to be playing Virginia in the ACC tournament. So that probably changed towards the end of the night, but maybe it didn't. That was
probably did. It'll change from now too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I guess it's just the matter of that. You got 3 teams with six wins and 3 teams with 7 wins. that are at the bottom of this group. So we can move in between any of that, from 14th place to 9th-ish. So anyway, for seeding purposes. But, it's an extra game. And, I guess anything can happen. I don't have the faith in it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens through these next 2 games and then that. All right.
We really,
Huh?
That's all we really can do, man.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for just in general, like yesterday, if I'm just to give you an example. The cardiac cures, right? I mean, right. It wasn't, even when it is tight like that, it's not there for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The nervousness, the anticipation, the anxiety of being able to try to pull out a win. It's not there. So again, with a game like that yesterday, it's a pretty exciting game. You'd think it would move me some way, and it just doesn't right now. So, all right, let's do this, Joe. If you want to pull up Facebook, I'll pull up Twitter. We'll go over some of this, some of the comments here. We actually did pretty good on Twitter. I don't know what we got on Facebook, but we can do that right now. So, shall I start? We don't need an intro, do we?
Yeah.
All right, on Twitter, I asked for your thoughts on the game. You give them. Talk about them. At Joe Catskill, the perpetually positive Joe Catskill. This team kills me. Oh, never mind. One half they played great. Then when it's closing time, they keep turning the ball over and making empty offensive trips. I really like these players, but I hate their Jekyll and Hyde act. Go Orange. Yeah, they did go into a scoring drought earlier in the game too. It wasn't even just towards the end, but yeah. Like you said, Joe, I agree. I mean, it's mostly defense. You're letting a team come in averaging under 70 points, score over 80 in regulation. You got to be better. And it looked good for a while. Like, they looked really good for a while. And like the NC State game, I don't even think NC State led in that game. I think Syracuse, led through and through. So, at David House 91578, stopped watching until there is change. Okay. At David Super, can't even be mad. Down the stretch, I was just shaking my head and laughing at the blunders. Thank God there's only 3 games left. Enjoy the spring and summer before football begins. I mean, I'm really, I'm looking forward to as spring gets closer. And I say this after last week, not last week, but the week before, getting 10 inches of snow in Virginia Beach in the course of 10 hours. So
yeah,
the good news is that snow was gone, pretty much gone in 2 days, but gone in like 3 or 4 days. That's the good thing. Because we ain't built for that. At Drew Cuse, wasn't able to watch, but they blew another lead. What's FFS stand for? Any idea?
FFS?
Blew another lead. FFS, exclamation point.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, me either. At Old Cuse, I didn't even know they played. Is Coach Red still coaching? And is Nasty AF Joe still defending him? Oh, damn.
Did you watch that from the beginning? Did you watch the game from the beginning?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you see the opening? I was almost going to go back and...
You'll have to remind me.
Well, it was funny because they showed, they got to the CW and they were showing, talking about the game, and they were showing like pictures of the crowd, and there was a little kid that was eating a hot dog with only ketchup on it.
Oh, really? No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, I wonder if Sean's going to catch that. And
No, I would. You'd have heard about that. Ed, let's just call him Grant. This team quit months ago. I would disagree with that. I feel like this team, if anything, they do have fight. They're I don't know. There's just some cohesion issues. There's some stuff like that. But I do think, like, look at Eddie Lampkin. I mean, if you want to talk about consistency, this dude's probably the most consistent one on the team. I mean, JJ's pretty consistent, but Eddie Lampkin has been for as hard as people were dogging Eddie Lampkin at the beginning of the season. Like, he's become like a true consistent guy. Like, you know what you're gonna get from him pretty much every game, and you know that he's gonna go in there and he's gonna give it his all. That's the thing about Eddie Lampkin. Like, he doesn't let any of the negativity affect the way that he plays. I just feel like. No. He's
the guys I feel like that are keeping it together. I feel like, we know sometimes it takes a little while for stuff to fit in. And I think now Jair Davis is finally, albeit only 3 games left to old boy's point, there might be more, but it's like now he looks like he's actually comfortable with his role on the team when, the beginning of the season, there was a lot of expectations for Donnie Freeman and just where people were going to fit in. And, I see effort, but there's deficiencies, and I see people finally starting to fall into the roles. But at the end of the day, there's just some deficiencies that we have that we can't make up. If we put in our best defensive lineup, then it's hard for us to score, and vice versa. So we're just in one of those situations where it would have been nice to. I mean, Donnie, you got to think he was a 5-star. There's a lot to expect from him. I really wish we could just rewind from the beginning of the season and see what this season might have been like if Lampkin came in healthy and Starling and Freeman never got hurt. So it'd be interesting. In hindsight, it's obviously easy to blame that. Couldn't have. It might not have changed anything, but I just don't think that we ever got to see the ceiling for this team.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're looking at 13, 14 points a game offensively from Donnie Freeman, right?
Yep.
And
8 to 10 rebounds, some athleticism. But again, I think he was dealing with a messed up foot throughout. I think he was playing through some pain too. So, we can sit here and blame this person, blame that person. Yes, were there some transfers that we expected a little bit more out of? Obviously, Donnie Freeman getting hurt, those kind of things. But it's just sucks when we go through a whole season and there was things that happened to where it was like, damn, we didn't get to see the best version of this team. Just my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand what you're saying. When someone else might say to you, well, maybe this is the best version of the team. They stink. Right?
I just don't see how you can say that with Donnie Freeman on the bench, right? With like a 5-star that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I understand. I mean, look at it. What else? Weren't we missing something else too? Well, we had Starling out for the first 6 games, right? So.
Well, from Tennessee on, that's what I mean. Like, I think Lampkin started the season not in either having some type of back injury or he had something, so he wasn't 100%.
Well, let's be honest. Lampkin, he's gotten in better shape too throughout the year.
Well, right.
Yeah.
But I think that has something to do with the back injury that he had to be able to allow him to run and do those things. I think that a lot of his issues were he was basically kind of handling it to where he could just get out there and play the games, but then he'd have to rest in between the games versus still work on his cardio. So essentially he was just managing his injury just to be able to get out there and play 25 minutes a game.
And a lot of big dudes like that have knees, back, feet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's a blessing and a curse being 6'11". You know what I mean? So,
and like I said, JJ got hurt. And then when JJ got back, Donnie got hurt. So that's what I mean when I say, like, I don't think that we ever got to see the ceiling of this team. Not to mean that it's an NCAA tournament team, but
No, I don't think so. Unfortunately, I don't think so. But I never had the expectations of that anyway.
yeah.
And this is kind of, if you're being somewhat, I mean, if you want to give, like Patrick says, defending coach, I'll just say this. I mean, this is the first year really that, I know it's his second year, but this is his first full term of having to do the work in the off season by himself and everything really. To get in the transfer portal, and some of them are busts, and the team didn't come together. I think they lacked NIL money. I mean, you got to think about what the football team did. That, like, who knows how much dollars that took away from the basketball team to get that thing rolling. You know what I'm saying? So, to be fair, the resources for basketball this year, they were really banking on these transfers to give us a 1-year bump, whether we made the tournament or not, just to be out there and be competitive.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, that's a fair point, because we do know that, with all these, teams leaving conferences, going to the SEC, Big Ten, and speaking of making these super conferences and everything, we know, Wild Hack knows that it's going to be football driven first, right? It's going to be football driven before basketball season. Or before basketball driven. So if your football program ain't worth the damn, then you're going to get left out if and when this does happen. So
if you're at Syracuse.
If you're a Syracuse, exactly. Because I think that if you look at it, football is going to mean more. And if you look at our basketball pedigree, like, even though we haven't been successful lately, it's still in the eyes of an average college basketball fan that's been watching for a while, like, Syracuse still is
a name.
It's still a name. Exactly.
Well, that's what people say. What happened to Syracuse, man? Because they say what happened to Syracuse because there was, they were up on a podium at some point. Think about it. How often, do you ever remember worrying about missing the NCAA tournament?
Mm-mm.
Never. I remember when it happened in the early 2000s, and I don't even remember the year. I was shocked and devastated. I don't remember what year that was, Joe, but it was like the first time that I could remember in my life of Syracuse not making the tournament. It's just not something we worried about.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what are we on our 4th year? Not making it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the NIT's not even the thing's not even popular anymore. No one wants to do it, right?
I would take that at this point.
You would?
Over
nothing. Yeah, well, I'm saying I don't even think we got an invite last year, right? Or did we? And we backed out.
We pulled out.
We pulled out. That's right. We did. We did get an invite.
We would have made it.
Yeah. So we got an invite last year and we pulled out. I remember being a little pissed off about that, but I think it was a player-driven thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're like, well, I don't want playing this. You know what I'm saying?
All the movement of all the players. Yeah, I would say it was.
Yeah. Well, that's right. That's right. We didn't even have a team at the end of last year.
Right.
Yeah. So
you don't even really know what's going on as far as that goes. You always question. Obviously, you can always blame the money in the NIL, but to me personally, you had at least two. Well, yeah, you had two players with Quadir Copeland and with Malik Brown, where they had you return and you start type. I thought they were going to come back and they were both going to be starters playing 30+ minutes on our team, and they both decided to leave
because I think making more money probably.
I think they're both 6 men. They don't even start for these teams. So it's just when you see these things happen, it's just you always wonder why. I guess
Well, it's money.
Is it money or was it personal?
Well, that's a good question. Because we don't. It's only a good question because we don't know. Because
Right.
we can speculate about that, but I think the majority of this stuff just comes down to money now. The loyalty to money is greater than the loyalty to a fan base, a coach, or teammates at this point. Nobody's worried about if you can make more money, even if you're going to pull less minutes, you don't care because the money's there. See, the thing about that especially for Quadir Copeland, right? Because Malik was starting plenty last year, right? So with him, he could have been a tremendous 4-year guy. You know what I mean? Like he could have worked, he could have made the money he wanted to make at some point. You just keep renegotiating your contract, right? And it's just too bad. There's no patience, there's no loyalty, and it's just, that's what's like kind of put a sour taste in my mouth as far as guys like Malik Brown leaving, and especially going to play for Duke. Like, it pisses me off. Like, we talked about him getting booed. Like, I don't care if he gets booed. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. Some people fans are nasty. I wouldn't boo him. I wouldn't do it, but it doesn't bother me that it was done because there's no loyalty more. So you're not going to hold loyalty to us as a fan base. Then, whatever. You do your thing. You got to do what's best for you. Don't expect me to cheer you on, though. Like, definitely don't cheer him on, especially when he's playing us. And plus, I hate Duke. So that's like the worst, That's like turning a dagger to Syracuse fans. And you got to know that when you make that decision. And I don't blame him one bit. I don't know what he's making, but I don't blame him one bit. You're on a champion contending team, a team that's easily a Final Four team, and a team that has the best probability to win the championship out of anyone in the country, even though they're sitting in second place right now. So, hey, I don't blame him. Don't mean I got to be happy about it.
Well, no, exactly. And in Quadir's situation, he might just thought that he might not have been given the freedom to do or play the way that he wants to, right? So maybe he didn't take less money or maybe equal money to go to a smaller school, because if he balls out there, right? McNeese State, they're currently, they're leading their conference. So as long as they don't blow it in their conference championship, it looks like he's going to be able to make an NCAA tournament, which he couldn't say playing with Syracuse, right? And if he plays well in the postseason, then guess what? That's his payday to go ahead and for his senior year next year, he can go ahead and transfer to the SEC and make a crap ton of money.
Right.
So there's also that, some players that they don't think that they're getting the playing time that they want, and they know they got a couple more years of eligibility. All right, let me drop down a little bit, let me ball out, and then some big school is going to come and pay me a crap ton of money for my senior year so that I can showcase my skills.
It's crazy. He's averaging 9 points a game, and he's playing for, call it 22 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
He's not exactly lighting it up, and no offense, but
I know he's leading the team in assists, but
yeah, he is. You bring up his playing style, right? Like, isn't that what we loved about him, though? You know what I mean? Like, he took a lot of chances, right, to say the least. But he's another guy. Like I was talking about Lampkin, he's going to give you everything he's got when he's on the floor.
Yeah, I think the fans liked him. I don't know if.
Yeah, I loved him.
I don't know if Audrey liked some of the
showboating and the some of the nastiness that comes with, making a play over someone or, postering someone. That fans love that stuff, though. They love it. Okay. And you know what else too? If I remember right, I think, like my brother, I think couldn't stand him. Okay. And that's because he's a Duke fan. And that's why I loved him more, because when you've got that guy, like an Eric Devendorf, like people that had to play against Eric Devendorf, their fans, they hated Eric Devendorf. They hated Quadir Copeland. That's why I loved him, because you got to have that guy. I think we talked about a little bit about that last year, right? We hadn't had that, the guy with the attitude, a little bit of nastiness, a little bit of a little bit of street, like Eric Devendorf. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that guy. I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, you always hate him when he's on the other team, though.
Right. Well, and also too, you got to figure if he's the point guard right now over Jaquan Carlos, then where would he be? I mean, even with someone like an Eddie Lampkin, I look at the way Eddie Lampkin plays. I feel like Eddie Lampkin would have loved playing with a guy like Quidder Copeland with that energy. So it's just one of those things where he did a lot of the little things and he got hyped up about it. And with this team, it just seems like the only time anyone other than Eddie Lampkin really gets hyped up is if they make a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a little, yeah. I understand what you're saying. Let's see. At number 1, Cuse fan, absolutely speechless on yet another ridiculous, horrible loss. I mean, I'm with you, man. Virginia Tech ain't all that. Like, to say they're not all that is an understatement. Absolutely struggling. And they were, I think, weren't they missing one of their better players? Or, like, one of their decent players off the bench or something like that? Wasn't someone hurt?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think someone was. Okay, I mean, you just got to take advantage of that when you have it. The only reason I know that is that I heard them talking about it on the broadcast. So, let's see. Nadal, not going to win a game if Starling goes 5 for 14. Rest of the team played perfectly fine. Honestly, Red is a horrible in-game coach and let the game get out of hand. 11-point Virginia Tech run without a timeout. Cuse was clearly struggling against D adjustment. How about some coaching? What do you think, Joe?
Yeah. It's easy.
I know what he's talking about. Weren't you to give him a little bit of this? Weren't you hoping for a timeout before they scored 10 points? Like it was a 10-0 run right there. He says 11-0, right? So I thought it was 10, but let's say it's 11.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to go back and look at the sequence. If he thought the shots were good or he liked the shots their guys took, like he says in the presser, then maybe it was just a situation where he assumed that his guys were going to play through it. I really don't know. That's one of those calls where I don't really like to talk about when it comes to, as far as judging coaches with timeouts and everything is, it's just, and it's a hindsight thing, right? Like it's a hindsight thing.
Yeah.
If they went on a 10-0 run and then Syracuse turned around and hit, 2 or 3 baskets in a row and turned it around without him taking a timeout, then no one would even have brought it up.
It was the crowd though too, during that. I mean, there was when they. I mean, look, dude. I mean, that's why JJ missed those freaking free throws. They were loud.
Why, they wanted bacon?
I guess so. Yeah, yeah. They were. That was distracting. It was distracting to watch. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, during that run, I mean, the crowd was getting into it. When that game tipped off, dude, I didn't even know anyone was there. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, not a lot of it. Yeah, it was quiet. Not a lot of excitement surrounding that team this year. And, I mean, they came alive. They beat a kind of a crappy Syracuse team, but they came from behind to do it, and it hyped them up. At Saltine Warrior 4, how can anyone watch these collapses and think Red can coach? Players are dumb as rocks. Even at the end of the game, poor decision making. For example, not knowing you need a 3 down by 6 with 10 seconds left. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about situational awareness.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time this year. At CBB Hoops Hub, got to know when to call a timeout. Can count on 2 hands the amount of valid timeouts called throughout the season. I mean, I gotta agree with that. We were just talking about that, and I didn't see that, so I gotta agree.
Yeah.
Joe, what do you got? I mean, I've got more, but it's kind
Really,
of
that's not too. I mean, there's 5. One says they suck. The other one says joke. The other one says same old, same old. Mark, he says, I'll bet you Boeheim wouldn't have lost that game. And then Steve says, no defense in the second half. Maybe some zone would have helped. Season can't be over soon enough.
when that game ended yesterday afternoon, I said the same thing to myself. I know that's a terrible attitude to have, but I was like, I just can't wait for this to be done. I mean,
that's a crap attitude, man.
It is a crap attitude. I know.
I hope the players aren't there. That's all. I don't think they're going to be. There's a lot of players there that, I mean, this is their senior year. So, hopefully they'll continue to at least put in the effort, and maybe we'll see something, but I just don't see the miracle that we all want to see happening. So,
at Randy Cuse 90, another brutal game to watch. Defensive lapses, poor ball security, and long stretches without scoring. Seems like every game is the same. Tell me about it. It's freaking Groundhog Day.
Mm-hmm. It's frustrating.
At D-Lave 44, we weren't favored to win. Okay. Yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. It's just reminiscent to me of, well, not really like game-wise, but as frustration level-wise as the Pittsburgh game. Like, I feel like, mostly because it's Pitt, but all they had to do was keep doing what they were doing, and they crapped their pants instead. At Mike S748555165, during this game, my mind wandered to one question. Will anyone that is on this roster be playing for Syracuse next year? I actually think that Autry, yes, he'll be back, may have to find 15 new guys who will want to stay. Now, this is full-blown code red. See what he did there?
Yeah, I did.
I think that, we'll see. I don't think everybody leaves, no, to answer that question. No. I don't.
I hope not.
I mean, a lot of people are leaving anyway. I mean, I don't think JJ's leaving, right? So, I understand where he's coming from. I understand the thought. I just don't think that's a possibility. So,
yeah, some people might leave. Interested to see with like Bell and Cuff and stuff like that, but you got to start with retaining JJ and the 3 freshmen you have, with your 4 freshman class coming in, and then fill it in from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think JJ stays. You got to hope Donnie Freeman stays. That would be the one big question mark I have. Chris Bell, we wonder if he's going to leave every year. So we've been wondering if Chris Bell's going to stay every year. He just doesn't. It's like, on the level of happiness scale, 1 through 10, he's usually like a 2.5, 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get no positive vibes from Chris Bell. He doesn't seem like he likes it. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. And, he was freaking awesome last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it just, I think he has a role on a team, and I think that the role that we were asking him to play this year just is not that. It's really what it comes down to. So, yeah. I don't know.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for fan feedback. I think you guys get the point. And if you're still listening, God bless you. We appreciate it because it is terrible. So, and plus this show couldn't be bad enough. If we were talking about wins, it's mediocre. So we're sitting here talking about losses, and it's like,
yeah, I do. We're sitting here just trying to get through the worst season of Syracuse basketball that in our lifetime. So just bear with us.
Since 1960.
sure that it goes for the same for a lot of people that are listening. So,
yeah, right. And I mean, if it's me, honestly, like if it's me, and I wouldn't even listen to this podcast. So I don't blame you. If you don't, I don't blame you. We tried to, and Joe and I don't talk too much before we do a show. And we don't have like a, what would you call it? Like an agenda most of the time when we come to the table and do a show. We just do the show. So, with basketball, especially, just like I said, there's just only so much you can talk about because it's like Groundhog Day. So,
well, and it's different. It's different when we're winning too, right?
Right. And believe the last time I was here, or we were here, we talked about, well, at least we got lacrosse, and then they pooped their pants a couple times already this year. So,
yeah,
it sucks.
They won.
Yeah, they won against Utah, bro. Utah. I didn't even know they had lacrosse in Utah. So
yeah, they do.
Yeah, apparently. Just it's a Northeast thing. That's how I know it. So, anyways, but
it's moving.
Yeah,
Denver.
Well, they got work to do, man. They got work to do too. So
yeah.
Anyway, okay, that's gonna do it for us. Finally, you're welcome. Look, we'll be back next week. We'll see what happens with all of the things, and then through the next 2 games. So we'll talk to you then. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Peace.
Yeah, we'll talk to you then.